Well, here we are. It is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025, and we're going to take a look today and see how the sales are going down at Asia Week in New York. And so far, it's been pretty good. As we said a couple of weeks ago, after seeing the results of the Sotheby's sale in Hong Kong, the prices were very strong for the EC collection, and it's a global market. So if things are going well in Hong Kong, they're probably going to go very well for Asia Week in New York. And so far, I think that's sort of been the case. So what we're seeing, Bonhams had their Chinese works of art sale the other day, did very, very well. That Jiajing jar, the boys jar they had, took off, did great. And some other pieces really, really took off. And then over at DOYLE's, they had strong results as well. They had, I think Rick Savanis would be very, very pleased with it. They have the part two of their sales going on right now as I'm recording this, and we'll see how that does. And Bonhams had their snuff bottle sale, did very well. And we'll see how Sotheby's and so forth do the rest of the week. And then, of course, the Freeman sale is coming up in a couple of days, and they've got some nice things. So far, the market looks pretty good. I think everybody should be quite pleased. There's been a lot of talk, of course, about the economy and one thing and another, and what we're seeing, I think, is sort of the old line is that when nice things turn up in the market, the money turns up too somehow. Somehow the people find a way to get there and support and buy the things that they like. So we're going to take a look and see how things went overall. This was the sale. Let's hold on, pop in right there. All right, this was one of the. We're not going to go through everything in the sale because there's a lot, obviously too many lots. But we'll go through some of the things we'd previewed a week or so ago and see how they did. And one of them was this lot of coral. And coral always has a strong following. People are always interested in coral carvings. It's a very specific area. Coral, as you know, it carves beautifully. The pink corals, they carve wonderfully. And there aren't many things that carve as well as coral. There's of course ivory and rhinoceros horn and that sort of thing in coral. And those are the things that really, really carve beautifully and smoothly. Jade is a whole other area. But as far as organic matter like this goes, they do very, very well. Most of them are carved during the first half of the 20th century. But you're paying for the workmanship, the quality of the carving, and these were beautifully done. All of these were very nice examples, and they had a number of them. All but one had a very nice looking stand to go with it, and ready to put up somewhere. And the largest one was 8.5 inches, because none of these. Typically, these are not very big. Occasionally, you see 13, 14, 15-inch ones, but most of them are under 10 inches. Many of them are under 7. And this lot did great. It was estimated modestly at $7,000 to $9,000, which seemed low when we looked at it a few days ago, and it was. And everybody that collects coral knows it was low, but that encourages participation because they know that they're not fighting against heavy reserves. Ended up going for $15,000 plus the premium, or around $23,000 for the lot. It was a very, very attractive lot. And then over to this, the Imari decorated covered pots. This is the form is fairly common. It's a well-known form, and typically with the more standard decoration, the figural decoration on them, and the floral decorations and all that, without the Imari palette, they sell for $800 to $1,200 a piece, or even sometimes $1,500 for a pair. But when you get an unusual color palette, the prices could take off on them, and they did with this. In this case, they were estimated at $2,000 to $3,000, which I thought was reasonable at the time, given the sort of the rarity of the pattern and the design. They'd been sold, I believe, at Christie's some years ago, like 20 or 30 years ago. And this time around, they did great. They brought $3,500 plus the premium, or around $4,500 roughly, something like that. So they brought much more than the standard version in this form. The more standard types that you're familiar with too aren't quite as tall as these. These look to be about 20 or 30% taller in size vertically than most of the ones that you see. And then hopping along over to this nice big Wucai transitional period jar. Let's see here. They didn't give it. They didn't date it for some reason. I have no reason to think it's not transitional from what I'm seeing. There's the bottom of it. It looks fine. Is transitional, and the decoration looks good. So, at any rate, it was beautifully done. It had this nice goo form vase on it. And it ended up going off over the high estimate. Ended up going for about $4,500 for the jar. It had a $2,000 to $3,000 estimate. So that was a pretty good buy, I think. And then hopping along over to this, the bronze. There were a number of lots of bronzes, of Meiji period bronzes in this style. And this was from the studio of Miyo Isuki. It was a Meiji example. I think there were maybe 8 or 10 of them in the sale, and they all did well. One of them brought 16,000 or 18,000 with the premium. This one ended up going for about 10,000 with the premium. Beautiful example. And those who have been collecting for any length of time, remember the old Flying Crane Gallery over on the 3rd Avenue at the Co-op. They had a very good operation over there. They sold a lot of these over the years. These were heavily collected through that one gallery, and I wouldn't be surprised if these had come from there as well at some point in their history. Beautifully done, nice detail, good solid, that beautiful Japanese bronze patina that they used. It looks like, it's almost like brown butter, the way it looks on there. It's very, very beautifully done and nice gilding. And the piece did just fine, brought very good price. And then these big pair of Mayose Studio bronze jars. Now, these were not enormous, but they were very fine. They were 14 inches tall, but superbly well done. They were estimated at 16 to 25,000, and they ended up coming in with the buyer's premium at about 23 or 4,000. So they did really, really well. But these are quite striking. If you took the time to look at these, whether you like Chinese or Japanese or whatever, you have to appreciate the quality of these vases. These were very, very, very beautiful, beautifully done, and they looked like they were in great condition, which is always important with these mixed metal pieces. But very, very fine workmanship all the way around. The details were incredible. The Japanese did such incredibly fine detail in their bronze works during this period. Superior to anything really that was being done in China at the time. And then over to this, the Vajrapani figure that we discussed last week. I just liked it as a figure. I thought it was awfully well done, had a lot of energy to it. It wasn't enormous, 7¼ inches tall, and it ended up going for 12,000 plus the premium, or around $15,500, $16,000, with a $4,000 to $6,000. What was it? $4,000 to $6,000 estimate. Ended up going for 16,000. But this one had beautiful detail, and the gilding on it was in excellent condition, and had every all the bells and whistles you wanted, and the sea snakes or serpents under the feet of the figure are quite animated. They're sort of staring at each other, and the lappet base is in nice condition. Overall, this was a very good example. It was a really fine example. He's got a Vajra in his other hand over here, and so forth. And it brought 12,000 plus premium, or about $15,000. So it was a very, very good result. And then the brush pot. We talked about it last week. I just thought this was so interesting. Somebody had taken, they called it 18th or 19th century. My view is that this looks very much like an 18th century pot, judging by the quality of the carving and the style of the carving and so forth. But somebody had taken this Ming bronze, or early Qing bronze, and moved it over here and turned the brush pot into a tankard, pretty big tankard. And but they didn't do a great job gluing this edge down. I'm wondering if maybe this bronze didn't pop off at some point, and that looks like hide glue or old wood glue to fill it in, just to re-stick it. I hope whoever bought it gets that cleaned up. It'll look a lot nicer. But the bronze on this was quite nice, and the carving was excellent. The patina was good. And in the end, it did very, very well. It had a $4,000 to $6,000 estimate. It went for $6,000 plus the premium, so around about $8,000 roughly for it. 33% premium on these lots. So you're looking at about $8,000 on it. But very interesting piece. Also, the price indicates it probably was 18th century, would be the consensus of the audience, because if it were 19th, it would have brought a bit less. And so forth. And then there was the Sunqua folio. This was very unusual. If you're a China trade collector, you all know about the Sunqua studio in Canton, and having a set of pith paintings with the original Sunqua label in the folio is a great bonus. These pictures turn up fairly often in the market. I actually have one over here in my living room. It's very similar to this one on paper. But we don't know who did that one, but we know that this one came from Sunqua, which is very important for collectors to have that information. And they appeared to be in good condition. They all still had their original blue silk borders around them and so forth. very nicely done. All the different types of ships and boats, fishing boats. I think there were 12 in the folio. Double check. 12 painted. Yeah, there you are. 12 leaves. Ended up going for about just about 3,000 with the buyer's premium. 2,200 plus 30%. So you're looking at about $2,900 for the set. But well worth it. Well worth it with the provenance and knowing who made it. And then over to this very nice transitional period vase. I liked this a lot. I thought the estimate was very, very low. Apparently, so did a lot of people, because it ended up going for about 3,500 with the premium, 3,600 against a $700 to $900 estimate. But what got my attention for this was the brightness of the colors and the whiteness of the porcelain. This was almost the phoenix ways the coloration is. It's so delicately done and so brightly done. It almost it almost looks like a rainbow coming down the piece. And then you have all this very nice underglazed blue, this very nice, sort of unusual, soft underglazed blue that you do see on transitional pieces. But this is very nice with a quillin at the bottom and so forth. And then on the other side, you have the giant palm tree and then the rocks and so forth. It measured about 9 inches tall. It wasn't a huge piece, but it was very, very pretty. This was just a really, really pretty piece of transitional ware. There's that phoenix. Spectacular quality decoration. And notice that some of it's an underglazed blue, and then it was filled in with overglazed enamels around it. So technically, this was very cleverly done. And $3,500, $3,600 or so for that. And then over to this, the Edo period screen. This was a relative bargain, but screens are difficult to buy on auctions, especially because of the shipping. So if you're in New York and you see screens come up, or you're any place where you see a good Chinese or Japanese screen that you want, and you're within striking distance as far as your car goes, where you can drive there and just pick the thing up afterwards, you're bidding, as I've said many times, at an enormous advantage. Same thing with big pieces of furniture. If you can go pick the thing up, you're competing most of your competition to people that are bidding from 500 miles away, 1,000 miles away, whatever it is, other side of the country. They're going to go through a great expense to get the thing shipped, so that's going to be weighing on their minds while they're bidding. But if you're nearby, you just swing into the old beach wagon and pick the thing up or whatever you got, and so forth. This was a big screen. I think it went very, very reasonably. I think this was one of the bargains of the day. It went for $1,000 plus the premium, so around $1,300 for this screen. The issue would have been shipping it. If you're outside of the New York area and you can't drive and pick it up, you're going to pay $1,000, $2,000 to get the thing picked up and shipped easily. And because this screen was fairly good size, it measured 67 inch. Each panel was 67 inches tall and 25 inches wide. So to move this, you got to fold it very, very carefully because it's so easy to puncture. These are soft, these are paper-faced screens. These are not, on lacquer or like some of the Chinese Coromandel screens that are fairly hard and sturdy. These are on very, very delicate paper. They need special handling. But anyway, I thought that was an awfully nice screen. I thought it was a very very reasonable price. And then this, the Korean figure, was about 17 inches tall. The Buddha Amitabha. 17th or 18th century. I talked to Rick about this because we were discussing it because he thought it looked very Korean to him, and I agreed with him. The way the face is done, the positioning of the hands and so forth, a beautiful example, and it might even be a little older. I was thinking maybe 16th century. This is a fairly rare Buddha, and ended up doing really, really well. An $8,000 to $12,000 estimate, but with the buyer's premium, it came in at around $35,000. So it went well over, almost triple its high estimate, but a beautiful example. So overall, the sale was very good. I think this is all a good indication for the market. The prices for things in the DOYLE sales and in the Freeman sales typically are in the range of where the bulk of collectors are. Not a lot of collectors, as you can imagine, are in there, shelling out $1 million, $2 million. That's a very elite small group of collectors in the world. But the collectors in the I call it that sweet spot, the under the $50,000 range, where most collectors live. These markets look pretty good right now. I think they're doing better than people anticipated. And then hopping along over to the Bonhams sale, they had some very good results. Kudos. They did great. This was a fairly small auction, but they had great pieces in it. It was only about 78 lots. But you go through and take a look at some of the prices. Here you have that beautifully done lobed bowl, bracket bowl. It had been sold by the Eskenazi company at one point, but a superb, just a sumptuous shape, beautifully potted, early. It had everything going for it. It had that very, very nice Jun foliage, Jun glaze to it, Jin Dynasty, and it ended up selling for $191,000, including the premium, which was about $10,000 over its high estimate. So there was a lot of interest in that. That was an awfully good-looking piece, and it had good provenance, so that makes a big difference as well. And then hopping along over to this, the Jiajing period, the Ming jar with the 100 boys pattern. Now, this was a beautiful jar. This was an exceptionally pretty jar. It had the very best cobalt on it. The cobalt decoration on this was quite excellent. If you look at it carefully, it's rich. It's almost like it's leading towards a sapphire color. And there was a lot of experimentation with cobalt during the Jiajing period, and that's why when you look at Jiajing porcelains through the reign, because it was a fairly long reign, you'll see loads of variation in the color of cobalt. Because they were experimenting with it, they were mixing cobalts, they were trying different things, and but this color is the like the best of the best. There's another color they did also that was more purple in tone, but this is also awfully attractive, and it ended up going for $1.754 million, so just a little under $1.8 million, and it was estimated, I believe, at 1.2 to 1.6. So the estimate was pretty close to what it ended up bringing, but it was an absolutely great example. It is, of course, mark and period on the bottom. There it is. And it's that's what you want to get when you see one of these. And I said, this and the Jun pieces, these early pieces, when you see them turn up in the auction houses are nice enough to provide really, really good images of the bases. Save these pictures for reference later. Keep them in a folder on your computer. They are very important to have, all of them. The front detailed shots, if they show any interior shots, and the bottom. Always have those saved. All right, and then along over to this. These were amazing. These were estimated at about 800,000 to 1.2 million. This is a pair of chrysanthemum dishes, the Marken period Yongchen. They're not very big now. Excuse me. These dishes typically measure, these are about 6 inches wide. They're fairly small, but very, very delicately painted, extremely fine work on them. The petals around the outside are perfectly done. The quality of the porcelain, of course, is outstanding and all that. Here's the back of the plate. There they are. These were also sold by Eskenazi at London. Boy, you got great things, huh? And there are the enamels. But splendid enamels, just absolutely beautiful, and they did very, very well. There aren't many pairs of dishes that in this size these days that are selling for 1.5 million for the two of them, or $750,000 a piece. But very strong price, but very beautiful, and they are a pair. They are a pair, and pairs are hard to come by, and these are a great pair. All right, and then over to this. This was the blue and white sort of scrolling vine vase, Yongchen period. We talked about this last week because there weren't a lot of really big blue and white pieces of this style done in the Yongchen period. Many more were produced during the Qianlong era. They became extremely popular. This was probably, I suspect this was done toward the end of the Yongchen period, but it was wonderfully decorated. The cobalt quality, again, was excellent on this. The heaping and piling effect, the dark areas, all that. But also the fine detail of the lappets and the border decorations running around the horizontal borders, the vines, all of the details were so good. And when you look at this, the way it was done, it almost looks three-dimensional with the blue against the white, the way it was done. It was so beautifully executed. And the other issue with this is a very big jar for the Yongchen period. It measured 27 inches in height, so it's a very good sized pot. And it was beautifully done. And in the end, it did great. Sold for $914,000, went about $300,000, as I recall, over its high estimate. But it's a rare bird. And sometimes being rare can work against you because nobody knows what the value is, because it's hard to find pricing on them. But this one, because of its size, its impressive size, and the quality of the work, and the being market period, brought home the price. All right, and then over to this. This was another great surprise. This was estimated, I think it's at $6,000 to $12,000. Ended up going for $114,000. Really, really fine fine cup and bowl cup and saucer set. Apparently, there's a nearly identical one in the British Museum that was collected by Augustus Franks. It was in the Franks bequest when it went to the museum, and there was another fellow involved with the ownership was Mead. Was involved in that. But anyway, these are just beautifully done, superb coloration and so forth. And these are not very big. These are quite small, and they're not Yongchen mark and period. Instead, they have the seal mark of Yang Lin of Yufang. He was apparently a decorator. He had a studio where he decorated porcelain, and I guess he did unbelievably fine work. They're sort of vague about who he was and where he was. There's a bit of a write-up down here, but pieces with his signature have turned up before, and it makes them unusual because not a lot of porcelain decorators put their signatures and their studio marks on things in the 18th century. That makes it extremely unusual, and this did very well. It ended up going, as I said, for $114,000 for the cup and saucer, and these were not big. The saucer was only a little over 4.5 inches wide, so it's quite a small thing. It's only about that big, and brought a heck of a price. And then on to this, toward the end of the sale, came up this nice big piece of carved bamboo. It was a mountain, these mountain carvings. It measured about 11 inches tall, which made it sort of a big one, but it did very well because it had beautiful color. The wood color on this was excellent. This very warm honey patina on here, on all of the relief work, the layered rocks, the figures. When you look at their faces, they're almost, they look like bronze, like they look like Meiji period bronzes. Actually, that color, that shade of brown, that very warm brown, and there's loads of lohans on here and arhats and whatnot climbing up the piece. And as I said, it's 11 inches tall, so it's a bit on the big size for bamboo. And in the end, it went for $20,480 for it. And I think the estimate was about half that. So overall, this is the point is that overall the sales so far look very, very good, despite all the hand wringing about the economy. The money shows up when the stuff shows up, and this is what we're seeing right now. And it's interesting too to note that the Japanese market seems to be doing just fine. There were a bunch of inrows that were in a sale the other day. They all did fine. And we're also seeing a resurgence, I believe, on the beginning of the Western American furniture and decorative market, because I think people are sick of living with IKEA. They want to own something nice instead of rubbish. And if that's the case, you may see increases further in that area. So we're going to keep an eye on it, see how it goes, and we'll check back. Anyway, there are other sales coming up. We'll report on them as they finish. And thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't so far. And we'll be back Friday with the regular video, and we'll do some follow-ups, of course, on the results of the other auctions. But there's a load going on right now, and all of it looks good. So congratulations to both Bonhams and DOYLE's. They all did great. All right. Bye-bye.